Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are nearing the first regular season game of this season, Nate. And we are already in the preseason, or the preseason games we have going on. We are going to be looking ahead in this video, Nate, to some fun things with these over-under conference seedings and some fun stuff that I know you also have some great written content about up on thelines.com. So do want to make sure you do head over there. Check out all the great written content we have. Also use our great odds finder tool. Make sure you are shopping all these futures bets that we're still making all across the NBA to the best of your ability. Also want you to make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. We're going to be coming at you guys every single weekday of the regular season, picking our games and also picking our favorite NBA player props, which we remained hot all season long and are really, really excited to be tracking with you guys from the jump this season. For this one, Nate, we are going to jump into, like I said, some over-under conference seedings. If you do head to DraftKings, this is the book we're using for most of these. A lot of really, really good options here for some futures bets, some really fun stuff. For this one, like I said, the over-under conference seeding, the way it works, just using the first one we're going to talk about here as an example, Nate, the Celtics in the Eastern Conference there at 2.5, you can get plus 115 if you take over 2.5, which means that they would have to finish third or higher in the East there, right? So anywhere from third to 16 at that point. So plus 115, all the different types of turmoil and things we're seeing there. I will start with their over under for wins, I believe, hasn't really shifted much since the Ime Udoka stuff came out. They had already lost Danilo Gallinari for the season. So I guess where do you start with this one? It seems to be, a favorite bet of yours. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking for this market wherever I could find it because I don't think the Celtics are going to be able to replicate what they did towards the end of last year. I think they're being completely overvalued in every futures market, including being the favorites to win the championship. I just don't see how you could watch that postseason and feel emboldened about the Celtics. Like, believe me, I'm a Celtics fan. I enjoyed the ride. I thought it was fantastic. But they got lucky. They ducked Chris Middleton. They got lucky against a banged-up Heat team. And then they completely folded at times in the finals. So, I mean, to say this team is just on an utter linear trajectory is ridiculous. And Rob Williams, who is maybe their most key guy on both ends, I mean, really the key guy to give them a 2-1 lead in the finals, now out about 2 months, and he might have done permanent damage to his knee by trying to play through that in that playoff series. And that's before we even get to Udoka, who, when you look at a team that just completely turned around its season and went 33-10 down the stretch, how much of that is on the coach in this instance? I mean, the NBA is a players' league, but in this instance, I'm giving a lot of credit to the coach. I think just the way these guys needed to be coached hard. And I think they won't completely fold under Joe Mazzulla. We obviously have no idea what he's going to bring to the table, though. So it's just a resetting of expectations, and the fact that the East is better, that they're going to be getting into close games, and the Celtics were terrible in close games. Like they went 3-9 in one possession games all year. They won 35 games by 10 plus points when they were able to just blow other teams out after they kind of flipped the script on their season there. But I don't know. The East is deep this year, Dan. There's like very few tanking teams so far. And the Celtics are not a team you can trust against teams with losing records either. Historically, they beat a lot of good teams during that stretch with Udoka. Again, you got to ball those results up and kind of toss them away and look at the greater sample size here with this team. And now without a real good defensive presence for 2 months, I just don't see them finishing in the top two here in the East. Much higher on Milwaukee and Philly, if you want to name two teams that I think will finish above them.
Spot on. I don't have much to add to that. I will say I don't know that you do actually throw out what happened towards the end of last season. I think you hold on to it from the standpoint that it kind of felt like you kind of also said it was Udoka's doing, if you will. Now, I think there's also the fact that, Mazzulla, we don't know what Joe Mazzulla is as a coach, and we don't know how they'll respond to him, and we don't know how they'll respond to Udoka getting suspended as a team. So, if the team chemistry issues that seem to exist before they sort of put it all together and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum put those conversations behind them, then great. If that was a result of something that Udoka was doing, you got to wonder if that's going to come back in. I think at the end of the day, there's so many questions around this Celtics team that you have, which is weird because you really would have thought the arrival of Malcolm Brogdon might have answered the biggest one with a lack of a point guard. But in reality now, I think there's a bunch more. And the fact that the East is what it is, I think, look, what you're saying here, if they are going to finish second or higher, is that between Boston, Miami, Milwaukee, Philly, and I will throw Brooklyn in there for now, although they probably don't belong in there. So let's just make it simple. Miami, Boston, Milwaukee, and Philly, right? You're saying there's a chance that they finish third or fourth out of all four of those teams. And I'm going, I like Milwaukee better already as a team, and I would have liked them better if, they had Chris Middleton in the playoffs as well. I like Philly's lineup and their bench so much right now that, I know we've talked in a couple of videos already this preseason that we're riding high on Philly, other types of bets, like their regular season bets. We don't love betting on Philly in the playoffs with Harden and Embiid's instability with the health by that point in the season. But regular season, we love them. I think both those teams I would prefer over Boston. So if you're telling me I get plus 115 of my money to bet that even just those two teams are going to finish higher than Boston, I do like that bet. So that said, let's transition right into the Bucks. And their over-under for conference seeding is 3.5, which is wild to me. Like, I guess Chris Middleton is being out, right? That's got to be what this seeding is about. Now, the under is minus 120. I'm assuming the over there is probably closer to minus 110, slightly better odds because they want you to, obviously there's the under is a better play, a safer play, and probably a play that we're all looking at with the same reaction that I'm having, which is like, are you nuts? Like, all they have to do is get the 3 seed and I win this bet. But in reality, Chris Middleton, while it's likely he's back maybe January, you just never know with these types of injuries if that really means the All-Star break. And then by the time we get to the All-Star break, you go, is he going to come back and hurt the chemistry of the team? Those are conversations we've seen happen with guys with injuries like this, where they're not supposed to be coming back for at least 2 to 3 months. So that's got to be why it does remain at 3.5. What do you make of that, and does that scare you at all from taking the under?
Not really. I mean, the Bucks, pretty much everything went wrong with them in different varieties last year, but they had that championship hangover. They had Drew Holiday, who's actually kind of more valuable to this team when you look at a kind of a day in, day out basis than Middleton in the regular season, missing a ton of time. Giannis getting banged up at times, and they still finished third. And they finished third, first for the last 4 years. With Giannis just being an absolute machine, coming off the second best PER season ever. Brook Lopez now being healthy is a big difference that, again, I think matters a lot in the regular season more than just having that secondary scorer on the wing. With Brolo in the lineup since 2018, they have a win percentage of 73%. They added Joe Ingles, too, to kind of soak up those minutes. That's going to be fun. I think this kid, Marjan Beauchamp, is going to be a factor right away that they can throw into the lineup. Just another great athlete to throw and kind of fix some of the things that they lost when they let Dante DiVincenzo go. They need that athletic slasher. But with the Bucks, I think they're the team that most analysts are saying is going to win the championship. They're the team that we feel good going closer to 60 wins. And when we're talking about the Celtics being under 53.5, when they look at their total, I don't see how these lines line up. Like the Bucks, there's not 3 teams that are going to finish better than this team unless Giannis gets injured or something along those lines. Like, no, I don't think so.
And obviously we could caveat every single thing we say when it's this early in the season with as long as nobody gets hurt, right? But that's not really we're Giannis, look, we saw him hyperextend his knee in the finals and play like the rest of the games and actually win the MVP and have like 50 points. So I'm not really worried about that man getting hurt. He hurts other people. But, look, like I said, the only thing, just to bring it up, is the Chris Middleton aspect of this thing. That also said, Joe Ingles is there. He's not Chris Middleton, but he's a distributor and a playmaker and another guy who's going to keep the ball moving in a lot of lineups pretty much every lineup is going to have 5 guys that can make a 3 for the Milwaukee Bucks. So nothing that Coach Bud loves more than his threes and his dunks, which this team is going to get plenty of. And yeah, I'm not scared of that at all. I do think Chris Middleton will come back, even if it is not until the All-Star break. And then I still continue to feel good about that. And really continue to feel good about their wins too. I mean, it still remains at 52.5, but if you like the over, it's not one I put any money on yet. I still waffle on it, but that doesn't mean that they still can't make, 52 wins, 51 wins. We're still talking a top 3 seed in the East this year. So moving on to a team in the West, our first one here that we're talking about, and that is the Grizz, Nate. And for them, it's under 4.5 right now in DK, plus 105 for your money. So before I let you get into why that is really, really good odds there for you to get some money on the Grizz, what we're saying here is the Phoenix Suns, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Golden State Warriors. Let's throw the Nuggets, the Clippers this year. It just seems packed, right? I probably like them to finish above the Suns, so I don't even know if I want to count them. But I think I'm down on the Suns as much as anyone else is. There were a number of teams in there, but honestly, I still like the Grizz to get like a top 3 seed.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting the 4th best odds to get the 1 or the 2 seed as well. So, I mean, the thing is, when you just look at them being a regular season team, I mean, the motto could just be, it's a great day to be great. It's just like they're just going to go into every game being like, this is a great opportunity to just take somebody's soul. And they were at 28-8 against teams below 500. We know the numbers without Ja, 20-2 until the end of the season, 34-16 with Dylan Brooks missing 50 games. So they're going to be without Triple J for a while, but they obviously know how to offset that. I mean, it's just the difference when you look, you mentioned those 5 teams, one of them's going to stumble, and we don't know why, but I could give you a reason why the Warriors might stumble after, what happened here in these preseason storylines. The Suns might stumble with everything there. And the Clippers, who nobody expects to really take the regular season super seriously, could still walk into a top 4 seed if Kawhi and PG stay healthy all year, but that's a big if as well. It's just a question of taking a team that goes hard every single night throughout a long regular season. And to think that they got the 2 seed last year, if they get the 3 or 4, I'll take plus money on that.
Yep, I like that because we're talking about the Grizzlies. Like, look, I love their 48.5 wins. Going over on that, I already hit that. I'm also considering at this point the fact that you can hit Memphis Grizzlies alternate win total. 52.5 gets you plus 215 on your money for the Grizz. And look, you and I are bullish on the Grizz, or at least I know I am, and I think I might have persuaded you to get on the bandwagon of this is a regular season team that they don't care if they're playing. Let's put it this way: they would never lose to the Adelaide 79ers or whatever that team was that the Suns lost to, because they're the Memphis Grizzlies. Number one, they have like 12 guys that can all play in rotation in the NBA, which we saw when Ja went out last year. But also, like they would, if they took on like a middle school CYA team, they would bring it and just be working kids. Like that's the type of grit that they bring, and it's not a joke. So I think that bringing that to the regular season, we saw they can play with one guy getting hurt, and especially Jaren Jackson Jr. Like you said, they're almost used to it at this point. But even if Ja gets hurt, we saw they can win. So their win total, I think, is just going to continue to go up there. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They're bringing it if you're the best team in the league. They're bringing it if you're not. And so I continue to love everything about their win total, and for them to finish higher than the 4 seed or higher, rather, in the West.
And real quick, that's the biggest thing with the West is that there's 4 teams that are straight up going to tank, right? Yeah. So can you handle business against teams that aren't really trying to win? And we do believe Memphis could do that, whereas a team like the Clippers or the Lakers, we've seen be unable to maintain that kind of focus against really bad teams.
100%. Yep. Cool. Let's move on to a team that, look, I don't want to spend too much time talking about, but they are at least intriguing, and it's time to give them their due. The Brooklyn Nets. Not sure if everybody saw that viral video of Ben Simmons airballing a shot that he just like absentmindedly shot from the free throw line, and it went viral, but not worried about that. That's not what he's on the team to do. So Nets over. Their over-under for the conference seed here is 3.5. Minus 110 would be the over on that, meaning they would finish 4 or worse. that's got to be easy money. Let me ask you this: what's the scenario where this goes right for them enough that they were a 3 seed or better? Because we've exhausted the amount of ways that this could go wrong, I feel like, and not finish that high, right? So what's the scenario where that bet goes wrong if you took the over and they actually finish 3 or better in the East?
It could go right for the Nets. I'm not going to say that that's more likely than not, but I'd say there's a 20% chance that it stays together. I can't at one side say the Celtics are going to finish below 3 and that the Nets can't be one of those teams to finish above them. Look, the Kevin Durant revenge tour, I'm still the best player in the world.
Okay.
If TJ Warren is actually able to play a season, that can make a big difference. They have some pieces here. I mean, obviously Kyrie and then Ben Simmons but there are a lot more ways where that can go wrong with Ben Simmons and Kyrie suddenly deciding he doesn't really want to play and Kevin Durant being like, okay, I renew my trade request. And that's why I'm kind of intrigued by the Nets not making the playoffs at plus 1,000. If one injury, I mean, if Kevin Durant gets injured, that's it. That's it. Right. I mean, we saw that last year. They and then he came back at the end and they barely clawed back into the play-in. They won't be able to do that again with how good the East is. Like if it's a disaster. Yeah.
And you know what the next step is? If Kevin Durant goes down for the season, you and I spend the rest of the NBA season at least like twice a week being like, oh, Kyrie over. Oh, Kyrie over on points. Kyrie over on everything. It's just the Kyrie show at that point. Yeah. Just hit Kyrie. But I agree. And I do like something that you mentioned too. Kyrie, Curry, Patty Mills. All 3 of those guys are so important to what you do to stretch the floor. All 3 of them cannot play at the same time. I would argue 2 of them can't be on the floor at the same time. We've seen this with small guards, and these small guards just they're not, they don't have it, and I don't really like that for them at all. Obviously, you put Ben Simmons on the floor, you put KD on the floor, you got 2 guys that can guard all 5 positions, and there's like 5 of those people in the NBA, and you have 2 of them on your team. That's got to count for something on defense. But I don't know, man. I mean, like it's not even just about the Nets and their potential internal dysfunction. It's also just about the East and how packed it is at this point. The fact that I love Philly so much, we love Milwaukee so much. We all know that Miami is just going to be the 1 or 2 seed, 30, 40 games in, and we're all just going to be like, oh, I don't spo, whatever, right? So like all those things combined, I do like the Nets over at 3.5 there. So those are, I want to be very clear, those are all Nate's picks that he's that he's liking. He's definitely turned me onto some of these picks, and I'll be tailing him. There's a couple more that I did want to talk about, and this is one that you might be not expecting from me, Nate. But I wanted to briefly touch on the Denver Nuggets because I have been just itching to really like get a bit of a takeout about them, which is I keep hearing a lot about why they're going to be so good this year, because when you have Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. all on the floor at the same time, they're an unbelievable team, and they are. And we had at least like up to 11 game sample size or whatever, where it was like, holy crap, this is an unstoppable lineup. Then Michael Porter Jr. got hurt. Then Jamal Murray got hurt, or vice versa, whatever it was. They both got hurt within like a week or 2 span, and we never got to see it again. Michael Porter Jr. is not coming back as the dude that you think he is. Like, ever since he was in college, he got diagnosed with having one leg longer than the other leg. And that has just created hip problems, which has created back surgery problems. And he had the worst medical of any rookie in the history of the NBA, according to many a doctor. So to rely on that as the reason that like everyone's so bullish on them, and that their conference seeding is 5.5. The under is minus 150, meaning the expectation is that they're going to finish 5th or higher in the West. The over is plus 115. And I really want to be able to just make clear that I'm backing up my Denver is not as good as you think they are take, with the fact that I need to see Jamal Murray, who I didn't even bring up. But if Michael Porter Jr. factors into anybody liking them and that being the reason that you're betting on Denver, save your money now and at least see a few games before you do this. They're not a team worth betting on to me. And I would for sure hit over 5.5 at plus 115 before I went minus 150 that they'd be a top 5 seed in the West right now.
I agree. Minus 150 is not a good number. And I'm not really touching that. But I didn't even think about Michael Porter Jr. as factoring into this roster, to be honest. I know you just went on a diatribe about how I didn't even think he was going to play a game this year. It is not at all in my calculations, but I still like the Nuggets because they added Bruce Brown, they added KCP.
That's true.
Because Jamal Murray is a guy you can rely on. I don't think he's necessarily going to go down again, and because they have the 2-time MVP, and they still finished sixth with Jokic playing with a bunch of G League players last year. So I think it's a fair line to a degree. I think the over has terrible odds. I mean, in this case, the under for them to finish 5 or higher. I think they'll be prolific on offense though, and that they're another team that doesn't really take regular season games off. Jokic does not. So I mean, I'm a little scared of that. I don't think you can on one side say Dallas is going to take a step back. I mean, wouldn't you rather look at Dallas finishing 6th or being in the playing game, playing tournament rather than Denver?
Maybe. I mean, I'm someone who loves Christian Wood, and maybe that's just because I had him in fantasy basketball when he was like just going off unexpectedly for the 30 games a season he would play. But I do like the addition of him enough to go. I'd give him 6-man consideration the way that they've got him coming off the bench, although I'd be afraid that he's going to get into the starting rotation and not have enough games played as a non-starter. So I do think that, I'm not as low on Dallas as people might be because they lost Jalen Brunson. I think that swap to me still works. And, Tim Hardaway Jr. missed a bunch of time last year. I think they were bedeviled by injuries enough that you go, Jalen Brunson, good player, really worked off of Luka really well, and I totally agree with that. But there's other guys who can create their own offense and play off one of the a generational offensive talent. So I'm really not worried about that for them. I did want to mention, just because we were talking about Denver, that the Pelicans would be one that you'd look at next because of the fact that that's someone that I could see potentially usurping a 5 or a 6 seed. For them, they've got 7.5 as their conference seed, -115 for over or under that, right? And I think that's fair. They're somewhat of an anomaly in that they got CJ McCollum and last year at the end of the year. He hasn't played with Zion. We haven't seen what we're going to see from them this year. We haven't seen a Herb Jones having another year for us all to drool, all of us nerds to drool over how good he is on defense, even as a rookie. So I love this team, and I do think they're going to be a top 6 seed. I think that they're going to be better than the play-in, to be honest. And I could name you a few teams that I'm not scared of picking them over. So I think that's another reason that, I'm not going to hit the +115 over 5.5 for Denver. I'm just saying I would rather hit that than the under. But for the Pellies, love the under there at 7.5. I think the 7 or 6 seed is very, very doable for them, and something that I like.
Yeah, and we'll talk about them in the make the playoffs episode we're about to do, because they are one of those teams right on the bubble. The last for the seeding, though, I want to look at is the Kings, +150 to get the 10 seed or better to be in the play-in. I mean, technically it's +155 to be in the play-in, so I guess you go ahead and fire that because I don't think they're finishing 6th.
Okay.
But the West, you're really talking about them beating out one team, whether it's the Blazers, Lakers, those Pelicans if it all goes south, the Mavericks if it all really goes south. I mean, things can happen. And the Kings, they're on the upward trend here. They've got Mike Brown now, so they might play a lick of defense. Yeah. We only saw D-Fox and Sabonis together for about 10 games, and it looked pretty good. They got the rookie Keegan Murray in there.
Yeah.
So I just think the juice you're getting there for this team to finally snap that drought, not any relation to the Mariners breaking that drought, but they now have the longest drought in pro sports. And what if that snaps in a way by them just making the play-in tournament, not the actual big dance?
Does that snap the streak? Like, is that, I don't know.
Technically no.
Yeah, we'll have to ask Pro Basketball Reference or whatever. But either way, I fully agree with you. Under 10.5 at +150. I love the odds for them to be a 10 seed or better. Come on, man. They're making the play-in. Like, let's be real. I mean, even if you consider their over-under win total, like if we love it this much, like what was 33.5? Like, come on. They're getting 33.5 wins. It might have gone up at this point because I know they were a popular bet amongst people who just want to see them do well. Look, the very, very last thing I would say, and I know we're at time, is just the Hawks, briefly, For them, my favorite bet for them, just foregoing anything to talk about the conference seeding, is plus 130 for them to make the play-in. They're over under at 6.5. Like, I don't love the odds for either way. 6 seed, it wasn't worth it for me to take like they're going to get the 6 seed, so I'm taking under 6.5 for them at like minus 110 or whatever. That doesn't seem worth it for them to be a play-in team, which is 7 through 10. Like, that's plus 130. I love that bet for them. I don't think they're better than. I think Cleveland has just as much of a shot to be better than them as not. So like really, that 7 to 10 seed seems really like a really nice spot for those Hawks, who, if history repeats itself in any way, is not going to be good for the first 35, 40 games of the season, right? So that's how I would bet that.
Yeah, I mean, what, second in offense, 26th in defense last year. That's not good enough to get out of the play-in. DeJounte Murray's going to make a difference, but I don't think he'll make a big enough difference for them to not be 7 through 10. So, yeah, if you're going to bet the over on 6.5, you might as well get those plus odds and say they're going to be at least better than 10.
100%. We didn't even scratch the surface of what's available on DraftKings, Nate. So do make sure that you head over there and obviously want to shop that stuff on thelines.com, where we do have our great odds finder tool, which applies to all these different types of bets, including these futures and stuff that we're talking about. So yeah, definitely want to make sure you check those out because there's plenty more fun stuff to be had there. Like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us. As soon as this regular season starts, we're coming at you with videos every single day, at least 3 games or so that we'll be picking depending on the slates, plus those player props. So until we see you next, happy betting.